Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah wa barakatuh. Brothers and sisters, wallahi, I am really delighted to present this show. Brother Paul, I think I can hear echo. Have you got two tabs open or you got headphones? Present this show. Brother Paul, I think I can hear echo. Have you got two tabs open or you got headphones?
I'm not sure. It might be something
Brother
wrong.
Paul, okay, I just muted you, but you just smashed my intro, Paul. When I meet you tomorrow, I'm gonna have some strong words with you tomorrow. But nevertheless, brothers and sisters, we've got a very interesting show today. And brother Paul, as you probably are familiar with him right now, he's from the Workers' Party of Britain, of course, headed by the noble and intelligent interlocker George Galloway. And Paul Bedson has been doing fantastic work here in my city of Coventry, especially the east area of Coventry. And we'll be joined by other members of the Workers' Party to just basically have a discussion regarding the circus. What I mean by the circus, brothers and sisters, as you saw my thumbnail, you got two clowns, and there's no difference between any of them. There isn't, brothers and sisters. And we had the foreign minister, uh, this individual traveling to Israel, shaking hands with the prime minister of Israel, who is uh, a convicted, possibly a convicted criminal in his own country. Forget going around the world. He's got an arrest warrant if he leaves that country. And then you got the UK's foreign minister standing there shaking his hand. Now, brothers and sisters, I really want you to ponder upon when the situation of George Galloway meeting Saddam Hussein and shaking Saddam Hussein's hand, right? And look at the contrast, of these two individuals and these two scenarios. There's so much to talk about. I also want to talk about the situation in Leeds with the riots, and also the recent attack in Tel Aviv, in the heart of Israel, by a drone, by the Yemeni Houthis sent a drone over that bypassed all the air defenses. I'm really sorry, guys. I shouldn't giggle at this, but it just goes to show that they might have all the technology in the world, right? The IDF and Israel, might be protected by all this so-called technology, but a single drone took out a tower block. And it's so much going on. We've got brother John joining us. He's backstage. uh, John, welcome to the show.
Assalamu alaikum. How you doing?
Alaikum
Alaikum salam.
salam to Allah, brother John. I'm just doing a little monologue. Of course, brother Paul is in the middle, and John from Nuneaton, also from the Workers' Party of Britain, is on the right hand side. Paul, yeah, I gave a bit of a monologue. Anything that you want to share, feel free to talk.
Well, the first thing that springs to mind is that we shouldn't take what happened today in Yemen lightheartedly. What they did, what Israeli IDF did to the oil port, the main port in Yemen, that the humanitarian aid comes in on, it was completely destroyed. So that was completely barbaric, and that was something I think the Yemenis will respond to with potentially more strikes on Haifa, they've warned. So it's a disturbing development, as were the riots in Leeds and several events this week, and the whole behaviour of the new incoming Keir Starmer government, the two clowns, as you say. Well, one has switched over to another, but they're still a clown. And what they've done, not only visiting David Lammy, visiting Netanyahu, but we've had Keir Starmer's first state visit to Genocide Joe Biden, and then the incoming visit of President Zelensky to sit in the cabinet, or as they said, the first time this century, when I think it wasn't actually really, it was another leader. But anyway, what is Zelensky sitting in our cabinet, commanding our government for, giving speeches and influencing our politics? Again, those were possibly the three worst world leaders that you could possibly have wanted our government to meet, or at least in the context they have.
Yeah,
There's
totally
lots to
agree.
talk about.
There is. Paul, I think they're getting some feedback from your mic. Is like I can hear a lot of. I don't know if it's Paul or John, one of the two.
I've got a fan on because it's really hot
Yeah,
here.
yeah. It could be the fan. Yeah, it is the fan. Yeah,
Is that better?
yeah, much better.
Yeah.
Much better. Fantastic. And also the attempted assassination of Donald Trump. If there's any Americans in the chat, we'd love to hear from you
Mhm.
regarding the situation. In November that the elections will take place, and I'd love to get you on. But yeah, John, there is so much to talk about. We got the riots happening in Leeds. We got David Lammy, the foreign UK minister, going over and shaking hands with the
Mhm.
sons of Satan himself, and then in the Parliament, Houses of Parliament, doing a quick
Mhm.
U-turn and speaking quite negative of Israel. So, what's your thoughts on those two aspects? Of course, Leeds and the situation with David Lammy.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. So the question is, if Israel had the right to defend itself when Keir Starmer said, and the rest of the Labour Party, and especially David Lammy said, it had the right to defend itself. And clearly now he's kind of saying something that's the complete opposite, right? Have I got that right? He's pretty much saying Israel are bad right now. And there's got to be a ceasefire, and they've got to stop this. And he's mentioned the West Bank. He occasionally harks back to a little bit about Hamas, right? But last week he was with Netanyahu himself, shaking hands and smiling and saying all the right things, and it all seemed to have gone very well. And then, as you say, a couple of days ago, was it yesterday? Yesterday, he said that basically it's not okay. This is not okay, in very strong terms. And he, of course, restored the funding to UNRWA, which is an interesting one because, in a way, it doesn't make any difference because they get funding at intervals and they haven't actually lost any money. So restoring the funding simply puts it back where it was. So it's not like that's made the difference. My next door but one neighbor said to me, "It's terrible what's happening in Gaza. Can I give any money to anyone?" And I kind of wanted to laugh in a way because it doesn't matter how much money you give to anyone, you've still got bands of Israeli settlers protected by the IDF, stopping aid trucks going in, throwing off the aid and basically destroying it.
And it's a bit late to fund UNRWA because the Israeli Defense Forces have blown up all the UNRWA buildings. So
Exactly.
there's
And
very
killed,
little way they can get aid in.
yeah, and killed a lot of the staff as well. And that's the ones who they say who weren't accused of being in Hamas. I mean, it's just one pack of to another. But yeah, the other thing you mentioned, of course, just finishing off the David Lammy thing, the hypocrisy is unbelievable. My question was, and it's worth considering, but it's kind of a pretty pointless question in one way, which is at what point did Israel stop having the right to defend itself? Because I don't really understand the timeline here or the process. I mean, if they'd said that a bit sooner, perhaps they could have saved maybe 30,000 lives. You know, I mean, it's only when you stop and think about the horror. And I know, Mohammed, you do think about it and you trouble yourself with it a lot. And I said to you today, didn't I, that maybe you shouldn't watch so many of those videos because I know it's the truth, but it really does hurt when you take the time to think about the suffering that's happened. But anyway, complete hypocrisy from the Labour Party, complete clowns, as we've said before. But the other issue with what's happening in Leeds, of course, the fact of it happening is one thing, and hello. So nice to see that. I'll come back to that because that's timely document. Okay, so cool. So, well, I don't know if any of you watched the video that kind of started the whole incident, which was the children being forcibly removed from their own home. Now, I don't know the details, obviously, about whether that was anything, the removal of the children from the home was justified, but I do know this. When I watched that video, I thought they're not going to be showing that on their training days to show new police officers how they should do their job. So how should you forcibly remove a child from their own home? You know, it was actually really distressing watching that. And the fact that there were hundreds of people in the street watching it live and trying to sort of mediate in some way and protesting in some way was pretty obviously the spark. But we all know it's keg anyway, because and can afford to pay their bills, and they're basically upset about the same things that lots of other people are, particularly those below the poverty line. And then, of course, the press want to hijack it and talk about Islamophobia, which is absolutely ridiculous. Wanted to send Bangladeshis back to Bangladesh, didn't mention the fact that is it Mohim, the Green Party candidate, Muslim candidate.
Mohammed Ali.
Thank you. So Mr. Ali is a Green Party and a well-known figure in the local community, tried to physically stop people from destroying property and cars and so forth. Keir Starmer didn't mention the fact that he was Bangladeshi, which is quite interesting, really, when you think about it.
Well,
so lots to talk about.
I just want to point out, I was listening to talk radio at work all last night, and the rhetoric that they're using, these Murdoch Empire TV hosts, they were talking about how it was the responsibility of you-know-who, the certain ethnic groups in that area. And implying that it was Muslims' fault, really broadcasting it. I've watched it on Twitter today with people who think it was caused by Muslims. And I've had to explain to them, no, here's a video of the Romanian family that got children taken off them. And here's the video of Mohammed Ali in the streets, pulling a bin out of rioters' hands, grasping a pallet out of their hands, and they're trying to chuck it on the fire. It was not a Muslim-caused riot, and there's evidence of good Green Party, Muslim candidates out there, Bangladeshi, as you say, stop in the streets, being local heroes, stopping this sort of, violence. So credit to him. He will have my eternal respect for his actions during that riot, and it may be something we, Workers' Party representatives and potential, councillors in the community may have to deal with in the future. I hope not, but the way this Labour Party government plans are going, you never know.
Yeah, I just want to mention something. The situation that happened in Leeds, it was a very impoverished area called Hare Hills in Leeds, where a lot of people from the Roma community, kind of like affordable housing, basically. And if you go to my YouTube channel, I actually went through a particular area called Culworth Court, which is just off the Folesville Road. And this is, again, cheap, affordable living. And I would say 80% of the people who live in these small apartments, run down, the garbage and the fly tipping is just bad, are from the Roma community. And it is going to maybe possibly flare up here because, again, the lack of education. I think councils have got a responsibility to look after the local citizens here. It doesn't matter which country you come from. If you welcome a group of people into the country, then of course you should be able to look after them. And this issue about only 2 children and below can have some type of benefit, that causes a lot of hunger, poverty amongst families. And we need to really recheck ourselves as the country of the UK or Britain. We have these values. I think there's 5 values that the British have. And one of them is to respect others. And one second, I'm just scrolling up. Yeah, to respect others and diversity. And for some reason, some media outlets have kind of like forgot about that. And as soon as these riots took place, and unfortunately, the images that we had, a lot of the Romanians or Roma community, they have small beards, they have a bit of a suntan about them, and they can be mistaken for Asians, no doubt about it. I don't know if you brothers have seen the clips. And straight away, the media said there were Muslims rioting. And in reality, the Muslims are the ones who are trying to stop the rioting. And you mentioned the Bangladeshi individual who was seen taking crates and pallets of people to stop them from throwing it onto fires that had been lit and caused any more damage. So, Paul, I know you live in Coventry, and when you came to Foleshill, you witnessed yourself the diversity. Uh, how would you explain your experience of being outside the Foleshill Community Centre?
Um, well, it's a great diverse area, and people live in harmony. I was on this cavalcade for Palestine last week, and we were on the streets, not causing a riot, but actually celebrating. It was almost like a celebration going up Foleshill Road as part of a Palestine cavalcade, setting off smoke bombs and waving flags. But the kids were on the street waving at us, and it was a party atmosphere more than any sort of violence going on. So that's been my experience of Foleshill recently. And generally, I mean, when I was a kid, I witnessed riots in Hillfields and in Willenhall, where I lived. There were riots, but I saw the flames burning in trash cans in the 80s when it kicked off in Coventry. And I just, God, Allah bless that we don't get that happen again.
I mean, they would love to blame it on race riots, wouldn't they? They'd love to say this is all one group, or this is a problem between two groups. But the truth is, they'll do anything to divide ordinary working people. And Mr. Ali had also was asked about whether the different communities in Hare Hill, is it,
Yes.
got on with one another. Yeah. And he was saying there's not any problems at all between the people who live here, but they've all, in fact, got similar kind of problems, gripes, if you like, in terms of the way that they're managed. But I take on board what you're saying about some antisocial behaviour that could be young people of any race, couldn't it, really? But if it's not managed properly, then you have to. I mean, I also take on board the point that immigrant communities should understand what's expected of them in terms of behaviour. But this whole thing reminds me of what's been going on in Sweden with how they've managed immigration, because they basically created kind of ghettos outside of the cities, and the way that they were managed, they just created a drug culture and a sort of a crime, gang sort of culture there, and they made them no-go zones, and of course people spilled out into the other areas, and it was very easy, as you would imagine, for the Swedes to be able to, see that these were not Swedish people. And what it's done is it's fueled the right in Sweden. And much the same thing happened in Denmark as well, that we've got this emergence of the right. And the fact that there's a lot of immigration in all European countries, which of course we know why that is. That's the result of the conflict that's been going on, particularly in the Middle East, is just fueling the problem. And I feel like, in a way, that those two things are linked, if you like.
I'd just like to add in that I think the reason behind these riots, we have to look at the root cause, which was, as Brother Mohammed mentioned, the complete shambles of the Labour Council and the social services in point. Ruled by the Labour government now, and these incidents on a local micro level, I think I'm worried that they'll get worse with the government and local management we've got. That's the root cause, I think, rather than immigrants. I don't want to scapegoat immigrants of any type in this sort of thing, because I think it's a social service breakdown on the sort of operational level that's caused it, but due to tactical and strategic problems upstairs.
Yeah, the issue was there. They had social workers being involved, and I don't think they dealt with the situation due to the sensitivity of the culture where these children were living in. And social workers were basically met with hostility, and they had some child protection matter going on. And there's a lot more, I'm assuming, behind it. But the way they dealt with the situation, you got police officers physically going in there and dragging out children. to be honest, those kind of scenes we see taking place in videos that happen across America, for example, where you got police officers who are just, gun ho and just, thugs and tyrants, just dragging little kids around, trying to arrest them and push them around without any justification. So I think that was a very big trigger point, because even though we have, I'm speaking as somebody who's British, we have embraced different cultures here. But then we have to understand that with that comes with a lot of luggage. Like, for example, if you come from a Pakistani culture or Bangladeshi culture, you got to be able to understand their dietary requirements or the religious requirements and things, simple things. I know it might sound simple, but some people just don't know anything about halal food, or do Muslims pray 5 times a day, or and so forth. But now, hopefully, here in the UK, the employment law has changed a lot now to kind of like help out other faiths. So that's very, very beneficial. But still, there is some unfortunate holes, and this was a hole that unfortunately turned out to be a very big, how do you say, a clay mine, or a quarry, I should say. I want to go on to something else which I showed you to John and Paul. This who gives majority of the money to. One second, let me just get it up. The countries who contribute the most when it comes to the United Nations there, as you can see there. So the biggest country there is United States of America. I think they haven't continued, have they? I think UK's towards the middle here, as you can see, 21.2 million that they've
go down really, aren't they?
Can you see it?
Yeah. When as a league table, it fits exactly with who's kind of backing Israel, doesn't it? Really, I mean, you got United States number 1, then you got Germany number 2, and I don't think that's too far off with EU as number 3. Well, anyway, where was? Oh, there we are. Oh, we're a long way down. The UK's badly performing.
Tiny countries like Sweden and Norway are doing a lot more than us.
Yeah. We're relying on Norway and Sweden, I think.
Yeah, but they stopped funding in January. I'm sure it was in January early this year where I think they stopped funding. Now think about it, brothers and sisters. This money, unfortunately, hasn't reached the people in Gaza. Again, the aspects of no food, no water, no electricity, no fuel. I really want you to comprehend. Recently here actually today or yesterday we had a major cutout with technology. IT went down, and it caused so much issues with travel and so forth. Now imagine that 100-fold, where you're not having food, you're not having any type of electricity, no gas, no water. Now think about that and compare the IT system going down. It's nothing. I'd love to get your thoughts on that, Paul and John.
Can I just have one thought on this measly 21.2 million pounds that we sent to UNRWA, our Gaza aid package? One of the other first moves that Keir Starmer made was to award Ukraine with £3 billion every year guaranteed for the next 10 years. Compare that to the 21 measly millions we're spending to Gaza. And what we could do with £3 billion here, you could build a whole new Coventry and Warwickshire hospital on Stony Stanton Road, and another hospital with 3,000 beds. You could build prison to stop Starmer releasing all the prisons. We could actually put asylum process workers in to process asylum seekers and not just release 90,000 of them into our society who have crossed illegally. These sort of problems, we're giving our money away to Ukraine, let alone this 21 million, which should be vastly increased. We could have given half of that 3 billion to Gaza and rebuilt them from the rubble that will take 17 years or something to just rebuild the rubble, let alone build anything.
Well, the fact that Starmer gave that money to Ukraine before Gaza is significant, and the fact that he gave it at all is significant. And this shows what a clown that he really is. Because if he's given was it £3 billion a year for 10 years guaranteed, right? That's a nice that buys a lot of cocaine, doesn't it? But anyway, I think that here's my question for everyone to think about. I'm full of questions tonight, and it's that if Trump wins the election, right? And I think we'd agree there's a pretty good chance of that. And if Trump follows through with his, shall we say, claim that he can stop the war in Russia, and therefore, to the very least, stop funding the war in Russia. So if he does that, what is Keir Starmer going to do? Is Keir Starmer going to break the alliance and say, no, I'm funding Russia? I'm going to carry on doing that.
This is why Zelensky has run over here in a hurry, got his red carpet laid out, and held a meeting with the cabinet this week going,
He's panicking.
Send Storm Shadow missiles to attack Russia. Let me get you involved because US is bottling it.
He's panicking, and he knows there's a problem here. And we haven't talked a lot about the war in Russia, but it is worth unpacking a few things. I mean, I think a lot of people here and watching would agree that this was a war that didn't have to happen. But I wonder how many people have thought about how it ends. I mean, is it possible that Russia could lose? And what would that mean for a superpower to lose? A superpower with a lot of nuclear weapons? Because who's to say that Ukraine can just push them out of their borders? This is assuming the war continues. Will it end there? Because there's already incursions but there's already missiles going into Russia anyway. So I think that it's all about missiles, isn't it, these days? It's all about artillery shells and bullets. That's what it seems to. That's a lot of what we talk about at the moment is basically violence, and this is what we pay for out of our money. And I know it comes back to the central core of the Workers' Party's policies, but I think more and more people are sort of waking up to this idea that we're paying for this. It's not just, is that complicity even, I ask myself. Am I complicit because I pay my council tax? This continues. Maybe I should stop paying it on the basis that I could be doing something illegal, like breaking international law.
I think it's the overwhelming feeling in America that things have gone too far and they don't want to pay for it in America for the Ukraine war. I think Trump's more hardline, obviously, on Iran and China, but I hope when he comes into power, as he's promised, he'll sort out. And there were even people at the Democrat convention, at the Republican convention, with signs up saying Trump will stop the war in Ukraine. It was like next to Trump vans, they had specially printed boards with it on. So I'm hoping when he comes in, he'll do the sensible thing, which, in my opinion, is to install like UN held, new democratic referenda, UN monitored, ratified, watched and peaceful referenda to those 4 oblasts in the Donbass. See what they want to say on and maybe other oblasts may need a democratic solution, and install that and stop the bullets. I think hopefully Trump's had enough of bullets.
I mean, Trump is a clown, isn't he? But Biden is a puppet on a string, and Trump's a wild card who they can't control him. If there's such a thing as a deep state, they cannot control Trump, and I think they're genuinely terrified about that. And but I don't know whether they try to kill him or not.
We touched on Trump. And I really find it fascinating that this particular individual called Thomas Crooks, is 20 years old, had the ability to, I think, fire off 3 to maybe 5 bullets from his AR-15 assault rifle from the roof. Also, the fact that there's so much little known or coming out about him, I find that very interesting. Listen, I'm not saying, well, you know what? I would say this smells like a conspiracy for me. It does feel that they want to get rid of Trump either put him into
Yeah.
prison for a long time, or to get rid of him. And I would love to get anybody who lives in America, tell us, how does a country feel? Because I've seen clips, whereas they say Trump is like Hitler. He's made some remarks from statements from Hitler's speeches, and so forth. So there's a lot of hatred towards Trump, and some politicians within the American media, said that we need to aim for him. There's some phrases used, basically inciting for a possible physical attack on Trump. But then at the same time, I don't think he's clean himself, because after, when his gang invaded, is it Capitol House? I think it was, if I'm not mistaken, the Congress. Yes,
Absolutely.
and yeah, I know there's a couple of people in the chat. Always hope. I know you're from America. The link has been posted in the chat. If you want to jump on, you don't have to put your camera on. We would love to hear from you. But like I said, it'll be fantastic to get you on, and you don't have to put your camera on. We know who you are. So I'd love to. How do you guys feel? Because we're getting a narrative here in Britain, right? But we love to hear the voices from over the pond to how they think about the scenario. How do you feel about that? Again, going around the table, I'll go to John first. How do you feel? Do you think there's some bit of there's something not right here?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know whether the deep state tried to kill him or not. I think it's possible that the deep state to kill him. And I think that they just don't fit. Pieces of a jigsaw that doesn't exist, if you like. There's a lot of ridiculous things. There's been a lot of talk about the trajectory, and of course, maybe the most significant thing is that the Secret Service have admitted that they knew there was a guy on the roof with a gun before Trump went on the podium, which is an incredible claim, and obviously has led to resignations. But I mean, you can sack the Secret Service, but you still got to ask yourself, what was actually going on there. So I think a lot more has to yet emerge from this, and probably will not emerge until after the election itself in November, because my assumption here is that if somebody really was playing some kind of games, and it wasn't just some freak situation where some kid with a gun who's kind of a bit messed up just got lucky and fooled the Secret Service, and then he apparently was a bad shot when he was a kid at school, but still not that good, is he really? But he got close, didn't he? So let's assume there really was a bullet. I think there was a bullet because somebody else got shot, didn't they? But I haven't seen any real evidence of any of this, and there's a lot of people suggesting that the usual protocols weren't followed in terms of medical assistance for a man who'd just been shot. A presidential candidate who'd just been shot. It wasn't like you see a lot of Secret Service people around him holding towels and things like that, and him going lights, and the American flag upside down for some reason in the background. But nonetheless, somebody pointed out to me, if you watch that famous photograph, the American flag's actually upside down. So that's a bit of a strange one. But maybe Trump was upside down. I don't know. It's all just bizarre, isn't it? But it's not right. There's something not right.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah,
Paul.
I'd like to say
a smile on his face. Go ahead, Paul.
Well, there are a lot of things not right, as John says. It's a little bit like the JFK assassination, isn't it, with all the wild theories and speculations about what should have happened that day. If you want a good look at it, there's an American show called Redacted, if you've ever heard of it. But they've gone into all the different angles and theories, and was there someone on the water tower? And why did the Secret Service take 20-30 minutes watching this guy? And
Have you
What were
got
the
the
police
video?
doing?
I was looking for the video. It's really good, actually. If we've got that, but
Yeah,
I got another one, but I'm struggling to upload it or
I
do
don't know if
whatever.
Oliver Stone will be around in 20 years to make a film about this one, but it probably deserves one.
I think the
And
last assassination attempt,
Yeah,
I'm sure, was 1981 with Reagan, wasn't it? Where he was shot.
yes, they made the
Yeah.
Bodyguard film about that and stuff. But I've actually just to
yeah,
point out, I used to live in Pennsylvania in near Hershey, and I have a friend actually who lives near Butler, and there are a lot of extremist, well, not extremists, but let's say people with very well, extreme religious views. But in this case, the chap was Jewish. Just like to point that out. And I can't judge what happened, but extreme people can do extreme things and in weird ways, and this may have just been a random event that missed his ear by half an inch, as they say. But speculation will continue. I'm sure they will be talking about this one for many years to come.
yeah. They're very good at it, aren't they? They're very good at these. The Americans are very good at these kinds of situations. You know, we've kind of seen it before. Really, it's a bit like you know, if any of you watch Coronation Street, you know, when anybody has a wedding, there's usually something that stops it happening, or someone gets killed, or something like that. It is a bit soap opera-ish. It's just
Like
so
an episode
bizarre.
of Dallas.
But we've not heard the last of it. Fascinating situation to watch, but
It
we
seems to
really,
be a bit of a curse. It does seem to be a bit of a
yeah,
curse, especially in America. I think in
yeah,
1968, if I'm not mistaken, you got
yeah,
Martin Luther King being assassinated, and I'm sure at that particular time he was going to be the next president of the United States of America. And again, you know, it just seemed that the CIA and FBI and the Secret Service, I think they've got a lot. Uh, I mentioned to you, John, previously when we was off
yeah,
air that I think they have got a lot of information. I think there is a secret book
yes,
somewhere, and with people's names on it, and what
yeah,
kind of crimes they've committed, what kind of sinister and perverted crimes, I should say, on this Epstein
yeah,
Island. I really do think
yeah,
there is a book
yeah.
where Epstein has written down names of politicians, and there's been some stuff. I don't want to go into depth, but
Well, I
I've
know where you're
some.
going with this because you told me
Yeah.
about this theory a little earlier, and it
Mm,
sounded like a plausible theory. Actually,
mm.
it really did, and I think it's worth airing. You just got to be careful about some of what you say. Probably, are you worried about
Yeah,
YouTube
yeah.
now, or just maybe you've got your kids watching? I don't know.
No, no, they're off to London. But nevertheless,
Probably a good
for
idea.
me, like yeah, so, like I said, I served in the army, and I'm not saying I'm an expert in close protection, but I know that if you're going to protect somebody, you don't, upper torso, the chest, the head area, you don't expose that to any gunman.
Yeah,
You cover the person. Worst comes
yeah,
to worst, you open your suit jacket, you open the side up so it kind of
yeah,
gives a bit of like a curtain, and you shelter the individual. You push the person's head down so he's like leaning forward,
yes.
so he's a smaller target. But that was like, it just doesn't seem right to me. When you
How
watch the
did he?
movies,
How did you
well,
stand up? He's got like 8 or 10 secret
yeah,
agents, some of them quite big guys. There's a couple of big women
mm,
in there as well. And they were holding him down, like you say, to protect his torso and his head,
mm,
maybe, because there's a gunman out there. And still, somehow, he manages to stand up and raise his fist for the photo. I
mm.
mean, that's absolutely unbelievable photo bombing from Trump. You've got to hand him a lot of credit there. But maybe it was all staged. Is the suggestion, because I'm not sure either way. I don't know.
I don't think you can say it was staged because the fire chief died. He did exactly what Brother Mohammed
Mm.
just did above his two daughters, a 50-year-old fire
Yeah.
chief. Trump
Ah.
got his uniform sent to the stage and kissed his helmet when he
Yeah,
was doing his
yeah,
speech, and
Yeah.
he's raised a substantial £4 million or something for him, his family, and the two other people who got injured. So you can't really say it's a staged event when someone actually died and two people were very seriously
No.
injured and are
Well,
getting better.
Paul, I'm not saying it's a stage event, but some people are, and I've
Yeah.
been watching their kind of claims, I suppose. I mean, one of the videos I only got halfway through it. I wasn't that impressed with it, but there were a few important issues raised, such as the after the this is after the event now, so you had some photos released of Trump's ear covered in blood and stuff like that, but there was the suggestion that he didn't really have a proper medical examination, and there was no report that went out, about, oh, this is how he is, sort of thing. Nobody, I mean, actually, I'd love somebody to correct me. I'm trying to watch the chat here as well about this. I mean, did the Americans get any sort of details, such as photographs or medical descriptions of what the actual injuries were? Has there been bullets found? I guess there've been bullets found, because it's that's the kind of hard evidence that you really want. What people are showing is a very comical scene in a way that, as you say, Brother Mohammed, it just doesn't seem quite real. It just doesn't look natural, particularly the bit about why aren't they protecting his body. I mean, there's a gunman out there. They don't know that he's been taken out yet, do they? And he's letting him start. Surely 10 guys can't stop a guy
also,
from standing up.
what puzzles me also after watching the footage is that you have cameramen with cameras pointing towards the Donald Trump and the group of Secret Service. Now, for me, I'm thinking if you're pointing something like a camera, you can be mistaken, or it could be a possible gun hidden within the camera, and you're like a stone throw away from the platform where Trump was. It just doesn't seem right to me. It just doesn't. Yeah, it just doesn't sit well for me. But I just want to mention something, that domestic terrorism is like growing big time in America. I think within 2011 and 2021, there was 529 incidents of domestic terrorism in America. And that is a big number of 529 domestic incidents of terrorism between 2011 and 2021. And in 2020, the year of 2020, there's 102 incidents of domestic terrorism. Now, that is crazy, man. That is absolutely fascinating.
Extreme views and a lot of guns in America, and those two things don't generally go together too well. I just wanted to mention something about John said that I believe is correct about the evidence about the bullet hitting the ear. Just to point out that you can actually be injured by a bullet not actually hitting you, but the shock wave of the bullet going quickly past your ear can actually nick it. So that's potentially what happened there.
I'll be honest with you guys. My left ear, I had my ear. Oh, you got your music? Okay. No.
There are many strange details regarding the shooting of former President Donald Trump, and a lot has come out days afterwards. We're going to break down some of the more bizarre details and unknowns from this past week. Welcome to Sidebar, presented by Law and Crime. I'm Jesse Weber. It has been quite a week so far in the aftermath of the attempted assassination of former President Donald Trump out in Butler, Pennsylvania, when a shooter identified as 20-year-old Crooks opened fire, ultimately wounding Donald Trump, critically injuring two others, David Dutch and James Copenhaver, although they're reportedly in stable condition, but also tragically killing 50-year-old Corey Comparator. And he was apparently shielding his wife and children from gunfire that day. By the way, I have to tell you, there were GoFundMe pages that were set up for both Corey and for the Butler victims in general. I want you to listen to this. Corey's, at the time of this recording, is almost at $1.3 million raised, where there was a goal of just $7,000. And over $5.4 million has been raised for the families in general, in total. That is incredible support. But there are a lot of weird aspects to this shooting as the FBI is investigating this. And to be clear, this is a rapidly developing story, an evolving story. So what we're discussing with you right now is based on the information we currently have. Things could always change, but let's talk about this. We have been breaking down this story, this shooting, the details all week. And we kind of want to summarize what we know at this point, the outstanding questions, what we can expect. So first, let's lay out how on earth this happened. I mean, authorities say that Crooks was able to scale a building that was on the outside security perimeter of this pro-Trump rally. It's the American Glass Research Building. Sets up an AR-15 style rifle about 150 yards away from Trump's podium where he was giving a speech, and opens fire within minutes of Trump's speech at about 6:10, 6:11 p.m.
And you know, that's a little bit old, that chart. That chart's a couple of months old. And if you want to really see something that's said, take a look what happened.
I can get their cover from just £299.
LV have always made it simple for me to get great.
Do apologise. I was trying to. It's
bring
worth
it back
watching,
on.
though.
Roof, buddy.
Yeah.
I just seen his hair go up my on the head.
Now, this shooter was instantly neutralized by a Secret Service counter sniper team. And I got a hands off to the Secret Service, who immediately, as soon as the shots rang out, swarmed onto Donald Trump to protect him, shield him from any continuing gunfire. You want to talk about heroes? You want to talk about selfless actions? That's a prime example. Now, authorities, they reportedly discovered a remote detonator or transmitter on Crook's body, as well as remote-controlled explosives, a bulletproof vest, fully loaded magazines, and a drone in his car, which was parked nearby. And investigators also found another vest, explosive materials, and a 3D printer at his home in Bethel Park, Pennsylvania. So that's about 50 miles away. He had apparently been living there with his parents. And according to CNN, a joint FBI and Department of Homeland Security bulletin has revealed that Crooks had been receiving multiple packages in the months leading up to the shooting, including those marked as possibly containing hazardous materials. So first, let's start off with a major strange aspect. Big question. How was this suspected shooter even able to get into position when reporting indicates that both spectators and law enforcement at the event were aware of him? Let me expand upon that. There were reports that people saw this shooter beforehand. There's even video that is circulated online of him seemingly checking out the roof, scoping out the area. There are those who say they saw him with a duffel bag and rangefinder. Then there are reportedly people who saw him climbing the roof. For example, Ben Macer told KDKA that he saw the guy move from roof to roof and told an officer that this shooter was on the roof. When I turned around to go back to where I was, it was when the gunshots started, and then it was just chaos, and we all came running away, and that was that. Now, apparently, investigators believe that Crooks had also used a bike to check out the Butler site, and according to the New York Post, a witness saw that bike around 40 minutes before the shooting. It's being reported that senators held a...
So he had a better bike than the Secret Services had. And he also had a drone, which the Secret Services didn't have a drone. Someone's put that in the chat about the fact that they didn't use drones. Always hope. And there's been some great comments, actually. But we don't need to watch all of that. But I'd recommend watching it. There's quite a lot to unpack there. By the way, I haven't made up my mind, genuinely. But it's just, there's a lot of stuff to look at there that makes you think this just doesn't make any sense whatsoever.
Yeah, go ahead, Paul. You want to say something?
Oh, yeah, it's a bit of a head scratcher, isn't it? It's yeah, a lot of things don't really add up, but yeah, it's hard to say. I think until we've probably had a few years investigating it and looking it over, isn't it?
Yeah, there's quite a few people always hope mentioning that some of the female operatives seem to be unprofessional and, of course, quite short in stature. And when they did it,
that's the concern, isn't it? I think above all, it's the Secret Service failures that John highlighted that people really have to look into, and the director and their diversity training and just the way they handled it. Various failures, I think, are to blame, and that's probably where we should have a look before speculating on what this guy, who this guy was involved with, and whatever.
He doesn't seem like a highly trained individual, does he? He doesn't seem. I mean, maybe he's a half decent shot or something like that, and he's done a bit of climbing in his time. But you think, well, did he do all that on his own? Really? It just seems bizarre. And as I think Always Hope said, or someone said, hindsight 2020 may have said, why didn't the Secret Service put a drone over? Why didn't they? You just think they would just do that anyway, wouldn't you? They said at all.
Yeah, hindsight's mentioning. I know I've done a bit of research regarding Joe Biden. His Secret Service are all men, and they are all ex-military, and they are taller than Biden. I think he's got hundreds of Secret Service close protection staff, and they all are white males. None of them are of any other race or gender. And for me, there's one moment where they finally get him into the car, and the lady has trouble of putting her sidearm back into her holster on the left hand side, and she took about 2-3 attempts to put it in. And for me, it's just, and the sunglasses look, and the white shirt, and the black blazer and stuff. For me, it's just something out of a movie scene.
Maybe they've been underfunding the Secret Service in America because they're spending so much money on missiles. It's to believe that they would, though, isn't it? But somebody who, I mean, you know this, Mohammed, somebody who doesn't know the weapon well is somebody who's either not very well trained, or maybe they've just had a new one this morning. But you wouldn't put them on a job like that, would you? Just crazy.
No, you wouldn't. You wouldn't. And there's quite a few comments coming in now. But I remember when the president of that particular time, Pakistan, Imran Khan, I think he got shot in the ankle or lower part of his leg on an assassination attempt. And, he was smothered by close protection, or even supporters. They kind of like quicker than what they did with Donald Trump, protected Imran Khan. So I just find it baffling that if you've got an outfit like that and it just fails to protect you and lets you put your head out. This is what I don't. For me, like I said, who I've served in the military, last thing you do, you put your head up in the air. Imagine if I'm behind a barrier or some sandbags, and I want to see where the enemy is. Last thing I do is pop my head up above the sandbags. It's the last thing I do. So for me, with his fist in the air and so forth, his close protection should have put their hands on top of his head, pushing his head and neck.
Yeah, pushed him down, sat on him.
Down. Yeah, exactly, and smothered him and made like
smothered him with bodies.
Absolutely. Yeah, it's just quite amazing. But I definitely think the young man himself, there's a lot more information to be let out regarding him and his affiliation with different organizations. I think it's very suspicious.
I will say this.
What do you think?
So just a quick point here, Mohammed. If he been Muslim, then that would have been in the details that they released about him. We would have been under no illusions, that he was Muslim. But they haven't, interestingly, I don't think they have, in the UK, released details such as what religion he was or whatever. Be interesting to read the chat now on this. I know there's at least one American person there. In terms of what I saw, a photograph of the shooter, right, and it looked to me like he was Jewish because he was wearing like But that's besides my only point is to say that they didn't release that as a detail. Why not? They'd have said if he was a Satanist or a Muslim, wouldn't they? Have I got that wrong?
I'm sure. Yeah, absolutely.
And made a lot of that as well.
Absolutely, and it feels like had some Mexican heritage or Latino. But one thing what I don't understand is because when George Galloway, he was actually asking for protection for himself, and I vividly remember him being physically attacked, and he suffered some injuries to the head, and he asked for close protection or some type of security, and it was denied. And it just really baffles me. It really does.
Well, I'd just like to point out that the day before, actually, this happened with Trump, George Galloway noticed that he'd been added to the Moirovets kill list, which is a non-governmental Ukrainian website that lists various enemies of Ukraine. And it's not state, but it's tolerated and it's not shut down by the state, which is what do we want kill lists with British politicians on? Influencing our country for, and Zelensky in our cabinet room. It's indicative of a growing amount of political violence that's come from that area of the world, with Robert Fico being this Prime Minister of Slovakia being attempted to be assassinated recently and left in a much worse condition than Trump. And before that, we've had Daria Dugin assassinated in Russia. We've had that concert hall shooting. That wasn't political, but there's a growing amount of this sort of violence.
Yes.
I really hope we don't see much more of it doesn't become part of a trend.
Yeah, and we need to look at the bigger picture, as Always Hope says. Ukraine knows Trump said he will stop the funding to them. I'm not sure if you put that message up. Ukraine does know that if the Trump Vance ticket comes in, that it's the end of their paycheck, and they know that all they've got then is diplomacy, and they won't be troubled. They'll just have to lose part of their territory. That's the end game with that. But there's a lot more links, obviously, because we still don't know whether Trump, of course, there was any deliberate attempt. But let's assume there was a motive. Who would have a motive? So Ukraine would have a motive. Would Israel have a motive? I'm not sure. A lot of people might have a motive, actually, but definitely the deep state would have a motive in America. I'm never sure really who the deep state are, because they're obviously secret. But I mean, I know that there's at least 2 secret organizations in the US that I'm not even share information with one another. So you clearly have factions even within countries, and it's not as simple as countries, is it? But this goes to show what a real mess it is at the moment. It's very, very hard to understand what's going on. And that's, I think, why we're flitting from issue to issue, because they really are linked. There's something going down, as they say, and it's not just in one place. It's hard to not be suspicious or paranoid about that if you're that way inclined like I am.
Okay, I really want to touch on this now, guys, if you don't mind, regarding, let's talk about home. Let's talk about our leadership. Of course, this individual went and shook hands with the president of Israel, and then we saw him, David Lammy, the Foreign Secretary of the United Kingdom, in the Houses of Parliament, doing a U-turn. What do you think made him do that? I would love to see. I'd love to be a fly on the wall. Do you know what I mean? And is it because of the funding, or have they kind of come to the conclusion that enough's enough? There's too much social media out there portraying the genocide, and we can't really ignore it anymore. I'd love to hear your thoughts on that, guys.
Well, I'd like to think it's something to do with Workers' Party putting some sort of pressure on them, or more than just us, really, the whole of the Palestinian campaign.
Yeah, the left.
Yes, and just the social media, everyone on Twitter videoing and getting us out in front of the MPs. So
I agree. But it's also reputation as well, Paul. They're essentially bothered about the reputation, but the political pressures, of course, matter to them, because they, for example, move too far to the right and they take a hard line on, well, when I say a hard line, I mean pro-line, or a hard line as in a pro-Ukraine line, then they basically will lose members. because people are speaking out, like the Workers' Party of Britain is speaking out, and so are lots of others speaking out on the same issues, that basically they're spending our money on war and they're fueling war, and it's not benefiting everybody, at least of all the people that are directly affected by it. But we've got this spin-off effect of immigration as well, and everybody moans about that. But essentially, you know, this is a cycle. And those speaking out against it are mainly on the left, although within Reform as well, you have people who are saying similar such things. So it's from the right as well. And they're playing a game. They have to position themselves just right to capture the majority of public opinion. So it's reputation, but it's also linked to the pressure, as Paul says, coming in from the likes of us. And
the 5 MPs that were Gaza MPs, the independents that got elected, that knocked out Liam Byrne and two cabinet members or shadow cabinet members.
Which you have to understand. I really want to really focus on this, and I apologize for interrupting, because this is very powerful, because these allegations were made by Israel against the United Nations regarding October the 7th. There were allegations. There was nothing proven to say that any members of the United Nations were involved in the attacks on October the 7th, without even an investigation or, you know, going on the ground and finding out more information. They straight away banned the aid in January. So think about how long that has been. So since this foreign minister of the United Kingdom, since he mentioned in the House of the Parliament, there's, I think, 3 other organizations or countries, Japan, Norway, and the third one was the European Union, have also changed their policy of refraining in giving aid to Gaza for the United Nations. So this effect has, thank God, gone over and spilled over to other nations who've also, turned their opinion. So, there is, I definitely think the Workers' Party and also independent candidates have made a dent, no doubt about it. And I don't want, and this is sincere request from me to these 2 gentlemen, is to continue. Do not stop. Continue until your last breath to speak for the oppressed and be just. And we need to continue this, because once we go silent, the guns will get louder and louder. We need to, mobilize ourselves and make an impact on the streets, and make an impact to the candidates, and tell them that, look, your people, your, I'll say 1 second.
I just mentioned that on Tuesday, George Galloway had a fight back speech that I think is possibly one of the speeches of the 21st century. It was done up in Rochdale, and he announced several new actions we're going to be taking. He said that someone stopped him in the car park because it was absolutely packed. He took over a complete mosque, and someone stopped him and said, "What's happening here?" And he said, "I'm happening. We're happening. The Workers' Party is happening, and we're fighting back," which is a great line. But he launched the Workers' Party Palestine campaign. So along with John and other members of the Workers' Party in Coventry and throughout the Northwest and throughout Britain, we're going to be attending Palestine marches, demonstrations, events. We're going to be at Loki's event on the 8th. You know what he goes about as well. And he's also launched something called the Workers' Party Pioneers, which is sort of the youth side of the Workers' Party, so young people can get involved. And if Labour go ahead and reduce the voting age down to 16, that's something the Workers' Party is going to welcome, because we saw the reaction young people gave us on the streets this time. And they want our policies of making Britain affordable for them, sorting the housing crisis out, sorting the imperialistic wars out, reindustrialising the country, all the 10-point plan things. And really, I think this is what people want above even right-wing reform sort of policies, which are only going to benefit the rich. So we've got to tackle that one, take it on, take it forward.
Yeah, I agree. I think people is an area we need to focus on, and to your point as well, Mohammed, that you'd made just before it's gone clean out my mind. I think that last night we met, the Workers' Party met in Birmingham for kind of a social, and there were a lot of members there. I think, well, maybe about, I won't say exactly how many, I'm rubbish at numbers, but the mood there was mostly of determination. So that was your point, was about, you guys, don't you give up, you guys. I mean, I think that we're not doing it all on our own, because, everyone on the left at the moment, I think is thinking the same way. And of course, the pro-Palestine supporters they may not be affiliated, they may not want to be affiliated to any political party. There could be all sorts of reasons for that, but they're still part of the same social movement, if you like, towards calling out the lies that we now know are lies, that we've been told for a long time. And you're bear this one out. I mean, they lied about why we went into Iraq. They lied about why we went into Afghanistan. They've lied about so many things. And I think that now more people than ever can see that. In a way, the internet and the truth are our friends, because you can't anymore. And it just means that you need a platform to be able to use to get the message across, because there's no point in just preaching to the converted. Of course, there's a core of people who can see it, and they're not necessarily in a political party, but they might vote, which could be Workers' Party, could be pro-Palestinian, could be Communist Party. I think the Communist Party still stood. I'm not sure how many candidates. They didn't get that many votes, but they're still around. And there's Tusk and so many other groups, and of course the Independents. So there's lots of work for us, but we're definitely not giving up.
I think is he frozen,
I
John?
stunned
I
you
think
into silence. Oh,
yeah. I thought you froze for a second. You're back. It's okay.
oh,
It's good.
sorry. Did I get to the end of my sentence?
I was just going to add, we're going to have monthly meetings in Coventry. I think we're having one tomorrow at 7 p.m. and people are most welcome to join up and join the Workers' Party and come get involved. We've got a WhatsApp group. You can happily join in with us.
Yeah, I'm hoping to meet you guys tomorrow. I have got a show with Yusuf Ismail tomorrow, and I do apologize for that. Me and Yusuf have been doing this so far on a weekly basis. So we had some interesting characters on the first show. I don't know if you've seen it, but we're doing this tomorrow at 6:30 UK time, 5:30 South African time. So stay tuned for that. So that's going to be tomorrow, 6:30.
Yeah.
And somebody mentioned in the chat that they are a moderator to the chat, but they haven't subscribed to my channel. Guys, you need to subscribe. There's so many people who watch my show and they have not subscribed yet. So guys, come on, don't be lazy and hit the subscribe icon. So tomorrow, we'll talk about tomorrow because unfortunately we have to wrap it up pretty soon. We're planning to meet up and have a good chat. And if you don't mind, what I was thinking is that before we go live, we have a chat amongst ourselves, introduce ourselves. And then after, when I pay for everybody's drinks, well, no, I don't pay for it, but somebody donated 11 euros, didn't they? Matt donated 11 euros. So I've got to buy everybody a drink. Of course, non-alcoholic.
I'm driving, so I'm driving.
I might have to buy you one, Mohammed, for letting us share your platform so many times recently, and I really appreciate it tonight as well.
No, it's not a problem. So I would definitely recommend Tango Mango. That is a very good flavor. So tomorrow, God willing, I'm buying drinks.
Yeah, can you hear me okay, by the way, and see me? I think my internet's playing up at the moment. I've got a building site, but you mentioned Tango. And you remember the adverts from years ago, don't you? I said we all remember those. So last night at the social, somebody brought slab Tango, right, and knocked the whole thing off the table onto the floor, and then exploded, and basically tangoed. And I wish that somebody would have video.
Oh God.
Well,
Oh God.
sounds like
Yeah, I'm
good.
definitely Paul. I'm really looking forward to meeting up tomorrow, and we get to meet everybody and mingle. So it'll be good, and I think we need to continue with this. Kind of like we need to progress with this, and it's nice to get other people on board and maybe link arms. And since I met Brother Paul on his canvassing, alhamdulillah, thank God that we have developed rapidly within a short period of time, and it's fantastic. Paul, I'd love to hear your thoughts on how we met outside the restaurant. You thought I was the shop owner. Do you remember?
Well, it was all through my campaigner, John. I think he bumped into you first and said, hello, this guy's interesting, and dragged me over to meet, which I'm very grateful for. And since then, like you say, we've gone forward to make some friends with other contributors to the channel, like Yusuf Ismail, who I was privileged to appear with, and hopefully will again. If we can take on some more interesting characters in that chat, it made a fascinating show, didn't it?
You were definitely riled up when that guy came on.
George Galloway came out there.
Fantastic.
That was good.
So, go on, John. Karen, you're just breaking. You're just like you break for a bit. Your sound breaks.
Yeah, I might have to leave. I might have to leave actually because of my internet.
Okay.
I've got a building site nearby, so I will leave, but hopefully see you guys really soon. Anyway, can you hear me okay at the moment? Or...
Yeah, we can. Yeah, but your picture's a bit fuzzy.
We got most of you, John. So look forward to chatting better tomorrow.
Yep. All right. Take care. I'll see you both tomorrow.
See you, John. Inshallah. See you tomorrow.
Bye.
Assalamu alaikum.
Assalamu alaikum. And yeah, I've got to go and get some food as well. I'm a bit late for dinner, but it's been a great show, and we covered a lot of great topics. So hopefully we'll do it again soon.
Inshallah, we'll meet up tomorrow. So if you've got to shoot off, feel free to leave. And inshallah, I'll see you tomorrow. And best of luck with your new role in the new employment. So may Allah make it easy for you, inshallah. May Allah make it successful for you. Ameen. Inshallah, I'll see you tomorrow. But I'm still going to go on for another 10 minutes. I'm thinking just to have some interaction with the people in the chat and give the people some updates with some future shows, inshallah. So
you have a good night, inshallah. We'll see you soon. And thanks again. Assalamu alaikum.
Wa alaikum salam wa rahmatullah wa barakatuh. MashaAllah. Fantastic. So guys, let me just, okay. So if anybody wants to come on and have a chat, feel free. I've got about another 10 minutes. If you want to raise some conspiracy theories, that'll be fantastic. And recently, if you've been on my YouTube channel, I've been doing some clips in the morning as I walk to the gym, or random clips that I've been doing in my area. And Sister always has commented on them, and she has enjoyed the clips. I'm really happy to hear that. And nothing's planned when I do these little videos of my area. It's straight off the cuff, as they say, and I just go with the flow. And it's nice. I really enjoy it because I get to meet nice people in the community, and of course explore different aspects of environmental issues, parking issues, and other issues, and I relay that onto my local authority, and a good chance of those environmental issues being solved. So that's good stuff. So I definitely appreciate you guys. And if you haven't subscribed, please subscribe to the YouTube channel. It's free to subscribe. And don't forget to share and like. And inshallah, tomorrow, which is going to be Sunday, I'll be doing a stream with Brother Yusuf Ismail. It'll be 6:30. Yeah, 6:30 tomorrow, 5:30 South African time. So stay tuned for that. And then later on in the evening, when I meet up with members of the Workers' Party, I'll be doing a live stream from the cafe itself. So stay tuned for that. Brothers and sisters, thank you for watching. It was short but sweet. Jazakumullah khairan. This is your brother Mohammed from CovFF. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah wa barakatuh.